excited to do this. I've known for months that I was going to do this. And it's just, I'm a total nerd about executive function. And I'll get to that reason why here in a little bit. But just to tell you about myself, my name is Casey Sumners. I live in Spearfish, South Dakota. I am a middle school high needs teacher. So that means I work with students who have significant cognitive disabilities, significant medical needs, or significant behavioral needs. I love what I do. It's not a job to me, it's my passion. But my other passion is executive function and helping teachers understand what it is. I try not to get too far into the science when I talk to teachers at first, because I want them to buy into it. But typically the reason why people come to me or want to try strategies that I use or ask for my help in their classrooms is because they're having a problem with something and they're having a struggle area. So I'm hoping while I'm talking, a lot of you are thinking, I want you to be thinking about a student that you currently work with, or a student that you know of, just one in particular, or maybe a few if you have a few that might be able to benefit from this. And what I always say when you work with executive function strategies, start small. What else should I tell you? I'm a mom of 3. I have an 18, 7, and 3-year-old. We are currently in quarantine. My oldest daughter has COVID right now. She's out of the symptomatic stage, so we're good. So we're trapped at home, and I tried to make my background not look messy and sent my kids to the basement. So hopefully you won't hear any screaming or fighting. Am I okay to share my screen now, Jessica?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay. So my hope is that this will be interactive. I hope you're not all here just to listen and join in, because that's not really how I do things. I'm not a professional speaker. And I even told my husband, I'm like, when I got the email from Jessica asking me to do this, I was like, I think they have the wrong person. I am not, I'm not a professional. When she emailed me and said, do you have a contract? And I was like, what? I've never been paid to speak before. What is this? So usually what I do, and when I talk about this subject, I present in an hour or 2-hour session, and it's all hands-on. I bring everything that I use from my classroom, and people get to make things, and we get to take things back to their school and implement them, and they get to see all the strategies that I use right in person. So this will be new for me too. So it'll be kind of a learn as I go thing, and we'll stretch it out over 4 sessions, which I'm kind of excited about to see what you guys are going to bring back to me. What I really would like from you is to jump in and talk at any point. I really want this to be interactive. Even if I'm talking, just talk over me, interrupt me. I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me at all, because I really want to learn from you too. Obviously, we're all in a similar profession, and so I'm always up for stealing ideas from other people and taking them back and trying them and doing new things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm hoping I get it right. Can you guys see my Google slide?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. All right. Move this over. All right. So we are working on executive function. Obviously, you all know that. In my Google slide, I put all of our dates for our next 3 sessions. I hope you all come back. I hope it's not a one-time thing. Don't stand me up, come back. But I put this in here, and the one thing I want you to be mindful of is when you watch my Google slides, the way they are laid out physically and visually is very intentional. They are to quickly catch your eye. They don't have tons of information. They offer pictures. They offer checklists. They offer highlighting, all things that support executive function. So of course, here we are today, and here's our checklist. And obviously today is not finished, but this is a good idea for you to see how we will progress throughout the rest of our time. So what I'm asking from you guys is to go ahead and, if we can just go around, tell me your first name, your profession, and why did you sign up for this call? And if you did it just to get some professional development, hey, I'm cool with that. It's okay to be honest. You can tell me. I'm fine with it. So I'm not sure who wants to go first, or if anybody just wants to jump in.
I'm Donna McKay. I'm at Gordon Rushville Elementary School, and I'm a school counselor. And part of it is professional development. Part of it is it's one thing I'm curious, I guess you'd say, about how can I help kids do this better?
Awesome.
You can't see me, I'm driving, but my name is Whitney Bennett. I'm a special education teacher for Scottsbluff Public Schools, and I was just interested in learning some more about executive functioning.
Thank you.
My name is Emily Johnson, and I'm also driving. I am an early childhood speech therapist with ESU 16, and this is a topic that is super fascinating to me and also one that I would love to learn more about.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Downey, speech language therapist. I'm also just very interested in executive functioning and see how just that planning and initiation piece is so often difficult for our special education kids. And I am also driving, so.
Thank you.
My name is Robin Hawksworth. I'm the assistant principal at Roosevelt. And again, just like the others, I'm just really interested in learning more so that when we're working with different students, we can give some better ideas.
I'm Jody Benson, and I oversee all of our early childhood programs for Scottsbluff Public Schools, and I'm just curious and interested to learn more about executive functioning.
Thank you, Jody.
My name is Heidi Chesley, and I am the 4th through 6th grade special education teacher in Kimball. I am just like everyone else. I just really want some more information on executive functioning.
My name is Jessica Garcia. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Shattern Intermediate School. And just like everybody else is saying, I just want to learn more on how I can help those kiddos meet, where they need to be and help them get to, the next step and how I can help them later on in life.
My name is Mike Scanlon. I'm from Bluffs Middle School in Scottsbluff. I'm a special education teacher. About a couple years ago, I took a seminar with Sarah Ward and it really opened my eyes with executive functioning and some ideas that you can use with kids. And I see a lot of kids with ADHD here at our school, and I just want to learn more about it.
I am Lisa Lucetto. I'm the speech therapist in Bridgeport, and I'm just interested in more information about executive function.
My name is Stephanie Goschel. I'm a home visitor with the 6 months program here in Scottsbluff, and I'm just wanting to learn how to use executive functioning with the birth to 3-year-olds.
Good morning from Mitchell. This is Kylie Soul.
And I'm Cammie Wilson.
And we're just excited to learn more about executive functioning so that we can help our students be able to be more independent.
Is this Mitchell, South Dakota?
What? Mitchell, Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
Just west of Scottsbluff.
Gotcha.
I'm Mary Durbin, and I'm a home visitor with Sixpence, and I'm just wanting to get a better understanding of executive functioning.
Thank you, Mary.
My name is Cleo Gleesberg. I'm the special education teacher at Shattern Intermediate, and kind of like everyone else said, just wanting to get some more ideas to help some kiddos that need this.
Perfect.
Good morning. My name's Danielle Cole. Oops.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Okay. I'm Danielle Cole, director for Title I-C at ESU 13. I work with students with high mobility in 41 school districts, and this is a passion area of mine.
My name is Jessica Dutton. I teach at Bear Cub Preschool, and every year I have more and more students with a wider variety of needs, and the little bit of reading I've done on executive functioning I think could really support myself and my students.
I know some of you might be in class with students, so feel free to share in the chat too if you're in a place where you can't unmute and talk right now.
I'm Dara Leach. I'm at Ogallala Public Schools. I'm a special education teacher, and I just wanted to learn more about it. So.
My name is Ross Van Amberg. I'm an occupational therapist at ESU 13. I also support the brain injury regional for Nebraska. We're the ones that help put in concussion laws in the state. And I'm very fascinated in learning more about executive functioning and picking up some more tools.
Ross, that's fantastic because a lot of the interactive things that we're going to be doing, excuse me, are some techniques that are used with brain injury patients.
Right.
So I'm sure you have seen some of them that we're going to be doing, but that's where I got a lot of my stuff.
Awesome.
My name is Melissa Rowan. I'm a speech pathologist with ESU 17. And I have a student that incurred a TBI and is working on some executive functioning. So I'd like to learn more about it.
Awesome.
I teach for Sioux County schools, and I have students from preschool through 12th grade, and I think it can help several of those students. So I'm excited for your make and take pieces.
Awesome.
I'm Heather Pearson. I teach at Gordon Rushville Middle School, and I'm here just for some new ideas and some more knowledge, I guess.
Great. Have anybody else? Is that everybody? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and skip on over to the next one. So like I said, I'm not a fancy presenter. I'm very blunt and to the point typically when I say things, or I'm not going to require you to do a lot of reading. Really today what we're going to do is just define executive function, why it's important. I'm not going to go into what executive function is a lot. I'm just going to touch on the basics because anybody can Google search what executive function is. I think it's more important to understand it, do a little research on your own, but my biggest goal is to help you in your daily life and in your daily job. And so that's what I really want to do, is make this meaningful for you so you can actually use it, not just learn about it and forget it and get built up in paperwork and meetings and things and think, I'll try that strategy later, or I'll remember what that lady said, because that's me. And so I really want you to be able to take something back to you, or back to your work, sorry. Talk about why it's important, what we can do to support others, so meaning students, our children, our significant other, anyone in our life, how we can help other people understand how to have a more successful life and day and without having so much anxiety. And what we can do to support ourselves. How many people right now all over their desk have sticky notes everywhere? You can't see mine on this back wall, but normally this back wall looks like a rainbow. I tried to clean up so you could not see my executive function deficit, but I'm hiding it. Normally I have sticky notes everywhere because if it's not right in front of me, I forget it. So adults too struggle with this. So I also want to be able to help you as professionals improve the way you do things so you can better support other people. I really, if you're a person that's not comfortable being interactive, that's okay. I'm not bullying you into doing it, but I really want this to be interactive and to share ideas and learn new strategies. So I use a lot of graphics and pictures because that quickly catches your eye. That's a big part of executive function. We want students to be able to quickly look at something without, how many people work with students who have autism? You can just give me a thumbs up, raise your hand. When I do autism trainings, I talk a lot about cut out the verbals, because when you talk too much to a student and you have all of these verbals coming out, the brain cannot process that fast enough, which builds anxiety. So a student can never learn new information, and which can quickly turn into a behavior. So I put this on here because I was a student in special education. And I say that a lot when I do trainings with other teachers, is a lot of times teachers will say, well, they just need to be punished, or they just need a detention, or they need to learn a lesson. And so a lot of times when I do trainings, and if those specific people are in my trainings, a lot of times I will say, how many of you work with somebody who was in special ed? How many of you work with a person who has a learning disability? How many of you work with a person who had an IEP in school? And no one will raise their hand, because as adults, we don't think about that. We work with kids and we help them be successful, but a lot of them don't think about these kids are going to grow up to be professionals that might have the same profession as you. And so as a kid and continually as an adult, I'm guilty. I have horrific executive function, horrific. I'm not ashamed to say that. In school, I will try to explain it the best that I can. I was very capable of learning. It just depended on the way that information was presented to me. And when I was in school, was the mid 80s to the 90s, a lot of the strategies and the forward thinking and the concepts that we know now to be appropriate were not used back then or known. So I remember being in elementary school and our school secretary coming to my homeroom, my classroom, with their clipboard and coming in and said, LD kids, line up, time to go to the trailer. Yes, we all want to die right now hearing that. It's so inappropriate. But to me as a kid, I was like, heck yeah, because there was only 3 or 4 of us. I'm going to the trailer to play games and get a sucker. Bye, everybody. You know, I was really excited. But as I got older, I figured that out quickly. And it really did a lot to my confidence and my willingness to want to participate in school. Always be very mindful of your words and what you say about kids. The one thing that I always tell the staff who work under me that I supervise is that you always talk to a kid the same way you would as if their parent was standing next to them. Don't go over and talk to another teacher when they're sitting right next to you and talk about them and how many tests they failed, or they just won't listen to you. That kills a kid's self-esteem and their desire to learn from you. And so I wrote a little note down. My sister is in sales. She's an Aflac agent. And so she actually has, I can brag about this a little, her executive function is worse than mine. And she's almost 50. It's so bad. I try to lecture her all the time and say, you need to do this. You need a label maker. You need to make a checklist, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes she listens to me, sometimes she doesn't. But one thing she said to me that really stuck out with me that I wrote down, and I keep this on my desk, is that, I'm going to read it off my paper so I don't get it wrong. So I changed the word kids. She said people, but the way I say it is kids buy you before they buy what you're selling. So if you have a kid who struggles with executive function, and by that I mean a kid who appears lazy, a kid who appears defiant, a kid who appears very impulsive, not impulsive to the way that I mean hyper, but will just quickly make decisions. A kid who struggles to transition when they haven't finished one activity and go to a next. or they really struggle to finish homework very consistently. These kids a lot of times can be very quiet, and it comes off as a behavior. And I remember in school, teachers that I had a connection with, those are the teachers that I did the best with. Teachers that were that I didn't have a relationship with, because I already felt stupid, I felt insecure. A lot of times I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience in classrooms. I remember in 4th grade, it was math, some new concept we were learning about in math. And my teacher was going around to groups in the room, and everybody was so excited, and they're like, look at the answer we got. And I just remember pushing my chair back and watching everybody, and I kind of felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, because it was like I was watching everybody and they knew what was going on and I had no clue. Like they were all speaking a different language, and I felt so stupid. And my teacher called me out. You need to join your group. What's your answer? What's your answer? And I just kept shaking my head, and I got sent to the hallway because I was being defiant. I wouldn't answer. I didn't know. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I didn't understand it. So hopefully that has never happened to any of you, and hopefully in your profession, you've not had an experience with a student that way. But I want to share this with you guys because I want you to know what it's like for a person who really struggles or did struggle in school. I loved school, and I loved going to school socially, I should say that. I liked being with my friends, but when it came to any learning time, I shut down. But when I had a teacher, I remember, so I had my 3rd grade teacher. She was, went into her classroom and she used graphic organizers. And as a kid, I had no clue what that was. But to me, my brain could break that down, and I could break information up and chunk it. And so I remember that changed the way I did things. And even after I was not with that teacher and I went into the 5th grade, I didn't have a teacher who used, just something really simple like that. I remember taking my pencils and drawing circles or square boxes to put my writing in, and that helped me. So over time, and it took me a really long time. I hate to even admit this now, but in college, I flunked math 7 times. 7 people. And finally, my advisor pulled me in and said, what the heck's going on? And I just said, I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. And he said, oh my God, you have a learning disability. And I was like, yeah, I do, duh. I already know that. And so the cool thing was he taught me some really cool strategies. And that was the first time in my life somebody had said, oh, this is no problem. Just this is what you do. And so from that point moving forward, I had a 4.0 GPA. I did fantastic in school because I bought into what he was saying. He didn't shame me, didn't make me feel terrible about what I was doing. And he taught me some strategies, because before I was buying all these like a trapper keeper and highlighters and doing all these things and like overdoing it. And I would just spend an hour trying to figure out, how do I put this together? It doesn't even make sense to me. And he's like, no, you don't need that crap. Do this. And when I finally figured out a system that worked for me, I became successful. And I'm not saying I don't forget meetings and I don't forget things and don't finish projects and tasks, because that's my life. That's how I do it, but I can manage that. So anyway, that's my experience with executive function and just being totally terrible at it. All right, why isn't my page working? Oh no, my picture's not showing up. Okay. I'm gonna move some stuff here. So I have a video that I want to show you real quick. It's only 2 minutes long. I think a video with visual pictures and the way it's explained will help you understand it better. This is also a very intentional strategy that I'm using. Videos very quickly help kids learn, catch their attention. You have your auditory and your visual. And so I'm going to just turn this on and play this real quick.
Casey, I don't think we can hear that. Is there supposed to be sound?
Hold on just one second. You can't hear it?
No.
Okay. Well, there's words on it, so I'll just, is that okay if I keep playing it?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure whether we're supposed to be hearing it or not.
Okay.
Did you share your sound?
Oh, how do I do that?
In the same place that you share screen,
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of a little bit further over to the right, there's a place that you can pick share computer sound.
There it is.
And think
And
flexibly,
now?
creatively. But
Awesome,
children
I'm gonna
aren't
start it
born
over.
with
Thank you, whoever told me that. Now I know.
Executive function is the brain's air traffic controller. It intercepts a tangle of inbound thoughts and impulses and steers them towards productive outcomes. Executive function helps students stay focused, plan ahead and set goals, regulate emotions, monitor their own learning, and think flexibly and creatively. But children aren't born with executive function skills. They develop over time. In fact, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which houses executive functions, is still maturing well into our teens and 20s. So teaching executive function skills should start early, be reinforced regularly, and continue up through high school, at least. How do you do that? Don't just teach content. Look for ways to take a step back and give students the skills and the discipline to learn on their own. And remember that failure is part of the process. Academic preparation needs to be taught. Show students how to use calendars and to-do lists, for example, to manage their time and plan ahead. Encourage students to ask questions like, do I have a plan for succeeding at this? What was confusing or difficult about that task? How can I do better next time? The research shows that metacognitive strategies lead to better preparation, planning, and performance. And high stress levels can impair executive function. So consider activities like mindfulness or meditation to help students deal with stress. And don't skimp on recess. Spend the time. The research backs you up. Executive function is a more accurate predictor of success than test scores, IQ, or socioeconomic status.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions about that? Any learn something they didn't know before? That's okay if you didn't. Just want to check in with you. Okay, now's the fun part. I'm gonna put my brain hat on. I got a hair poof today. So another very intentional strategy, something very tangible, something you could pass around a classroom. I teach a life skills class, so sometimes we work on executive function stuff, and I'll bring this brain out. And so the really cool part about the brain, and I'm not going to get into it too much because I'm not a, I'm not a specialist or anything, but really cool part is that the speech therapist that I work with on my team, she used to work in the what was it called, the ICU part of the hospital, and she worked with head trauma patients. And so she gives me all this cool stuff and teaches me all these strategies, and we bounce ideas off of each other, and we do really cool like working memory activities with kids, and it's so fun. So The thing that I just kind of tell teachers, especially teachers, if I'm doing a training and they're like, oh yeah, well, another training, I don't need to learn about this. Kids need to just do what's in my class and blah, blah, blah. So the one thing I always do is try to bring in a visual and say, executive function is controlled by the prefrontal cortex. So that is the first part of your brain. It's all up here in the front. I can take this off and show you. It's this pink part, but that is 1/3 of your brain. 1/3 of your brain controls executive function. That should tell you this is a really big deal. And so the other thing that I always want people to understand is that children's brains, our brains are not fully developed. This prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until at least 25 or 30 years of age. So our brains are always changing. Kids who struggle with executive function deficit, we all know them. There are so many things we can do to help them. So this isn't just a kid that's a lost cause or that's just the way they are. You can do lots of things to support these kids. One thing I talk about a lot is the chaotic brain. I do this when I do autism trainings, and I talk about this when I do behavior trainings, and then when I do executive function trainings. So basically what the chaotic brain is a kid who has, all these ideas. Think of like a pinball going on in their head all the time. I see this, I got to do that. I can't finish this. My teacher's mad at me. And so the way I explain it to middle school teachers when I do a training, think of a middle school kid like a soda can. So let's go through their morning. First of all, they woke up late, shake the can. Then they got on their phone. Somebody's talking about them on Snapchat. They just know it. Shake the can. Their mom's yelling at them, you're going to miss the bus. Shake the can. They get on the bus, they forgot their books at home. Shake the can. They get to school, they're tardy. Shake the can. All of these things, when they get into the classroom and the teacher starts teaching and says, why aren't you listening? Why aren't you paying attention? Open the can. Who does the can explode on? The teacher. The teacher didn't do it, didn't cause it, but guess what? That kid's getting punished now. So the one thing I always talk to teachers about is we have to use strategies, and this is what executive function strategies are that we're going to be learning about in our next 3 sessions, in order for new information to be brought into the brain. So for learning to occur, the brain has to be calm, because essentially what is happening is if a child has a chaotic brain, they're stressed, they have high levels of stress, their blood pressure's up, they cannot bring in new information. Think of it as coming in and bouncing right back off. Does that make sense to everybody? Thumbs up. Anybody have any questions on that? So the biggest thing that I always know when I look at a kid, if somebody sent them in and said like, oh my gosh, this kid is so unorganized, or this kid's grades are terrible, they will send a kid in to me. And I'll say, dump your backpack out on the floor. And I know in the first 5 seconds what their executive function is like. I know by the way their hair looks. I know by the way they look into my eyes. I know by the rate of their speech. I know by looking at their materials. I am like a human executive function detector when it comes to middle school kids by now, just because I've been doing this for so long. And I'm like, oh yeah, buddy, yep, we're going to be working together for a while. Let's get this started. And so really important to calm the brain and build a relationship. You're not going to teach content. You're not going to get through to a behavior, not going to do anything until you do those 2 things, sell yourself and calm the brain. All right, let me move my little screen here. So this is a screenshot that I took from an infographic that I made for our middle school. So the average age of full brain development is around 25. It's not necessarily 25, but that's around the time that it is. And so I put a little blurb in here: when anxiety is reduced, students become more confident and learning can begin. And so I put a picture down here of kind of what a chaotic brain is. It's think about a kid with a hamster on a wheel. And so sometimes I'll say, so students that I work with a lot of the time, and this is not just special needs kids, I work with general ed kids too on executive function throughout our middle school. And I'll I'll talk to them and explain it this way. You have a hamster. It's like there's a hamster in your brain on a wheel. And a lot of times if they'll come to me and I can tell by looking at them, or they get their binders out and I'm like, whoa, that looks like a hurricane went through your backpack. And I'll say, how's your hamster? And they know that trick now. That's our way of being silly and joking. And they're like, my hamster is tired today, or my hamster is not focused. And so when the brain is chaotic, it's not able to bring in information, which results in, oh no, I gotta go back. I did not mean to do that. So time management, behavioral issues, disorganization, anxiety. There we talked again about our heart rates going up, our anxieties building, I can't bring in information, missing or lost assignments. So the other thing is the students know the information, they are capable, but they struggle to retrieve it. They can't quickly go out and chunk that information and bring it back to themselves. So just quickly touching on behaviors, what we see is not really what we know as teachers. And so a lot of times teachers, and I get it, they're stressed, they're short on time, sometimes don't get a planning period. I get it. It's easy to quickly judge a kid, especially if they're trying your patience, and to penalize a kid and not check back with them or build that relationship. But there's always a lot of underlying issues that come into a behavior, and there's a cause for it. And I'm not saying executive function is the only cause for behavior ever with kids, because that's not true. But it's the first thing you should check for. That's the thing that I always try to tell with teachers. Sometimes I'll print this off and put it on the bulletin board in our teachers lounge, and then somebody will throw it away and I'll print it off again and stick it back up there. But behavior is communication. They're telling you something. Don't take it personal. Just because their soda can blew up on you doesn't mean you did it. And if they really struggle to regulate their executive function, they're not able to regulate who they're taking it out on, anybody that walks by. So what I said earlier, first you have to understand yourself before you can help others. So what helps me work with kids a lot is understanding my shortfalls, my deficits, the things that I struggle with, and that's how I'm able to help kids. And so I don't think we're going to do this quiz right now, but what I'm going to show you at the end is I have all of this on a Google Classroom. So we're going to be working off of the Google Classroom for the next 3 sessions. So I'm going to have you, when we're not on this call in your free time or whenever you want to do it, I want you to take this a quiz to find out what your executive function is like. I did a training last year to help people understand executive function, and our teachers who had really high scores said, oh yeah, look, I don't have any issues. And I said, can you relate to behaviors and understand why kids are behaving this way or why they're not getting their stuff turned in? And they were all like, not really. They just need to learn a lesson. So one of my goals is to help. If you have really good executive function, I really want you to be really mindful in being able to relate to kids who have that. I'm going to skip this page. And Dr. Phil, but I just want to show you I took this quiz. I like to do this with people a lot. My scores are all in the negative except for 2, which are at a 0, which tells you, yeah, I'm a work in progress. I still work on myself all the time, but I know I have to have checklists and sticky notes and calendars and reminders on my phone. I have to do all of these things, and I have to color code things to keep myself in check, to be an adult. So we have 4 minutes, Jessica? Okay. I don't think we're going to have time to do this one too, but one thing you could do with, maybe we'll do this one next time. I'm going to skip through it. Move this real quick. So after one thing to think about is when you take these these quizzes. I don't want you to do the word list. Try your very best not to peek and just move over that, and we'll do it next time. But think about how you felt, even when you were reading your scores after you do this self-assessment. Like, how did you feel? Do you feel like bad about yourself, or like, oh, I didn't realize that about myself, or I knew it and I just didn't want to admit it. Now that it's on paper, I have to accept it. Did you feel judged? Did you feel your blood pressure rising? Did you just want to be like, this is stupid, this doesn't mean anything? So the thing you have to remember, people with high functioning executive function will automatically categorize things and chunk them and put them into things. But people who struggle can't quickly do that. So the one thing that I want everybody to do is just quickly write this code down before we're finished. And before we join next time, please join my Google Classroom. And the great thing about this is, even when we're done with this series and these sessions, you'll still have this resource, and you'll still be able to message me or other people within the class. Or if you run into a sticky situation, you could message the group on the Classroom and say, hey, this is what I got going on. Anybody got any ideas or resources? Okay, and then just prep for next time. Take the executive function quiz, join the Classroom. If you don't have access to Google Classroom, just create a Google account, like a Gmail, and then you'll have access to that. It's free. And then I want you just to be thinking about one student you work with who is currently struggling in behaviorally, academically, I don't care, but I want you to have something in mind for when we come back next time, because we're going to be taking a look at those things. So we have 2 minutes. I just want to see if anybody has any questions, thoughts, any feedback.
How do I join your class, the Google Classroom again?
So do you have a Gmail account?
Yes.
Okay, so what you could do, and even if you go to Google and just say, how do I join a Google Classroom? It'll give you either a video or a step-by-step process to do that, probably in a better way than I can explain it. It'll be,
okay.
Yeah, in joining that, once you're logged into your Google account, up in the top right-hand corner, there'll be like 9 little dots. I think it is up in the corner. It looks like a little grid, and you click on
I
that.
just figured it out.
Yep, there's a drop down, and it looks like kind of like a picture frame or a chalkboard.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Our middle school is a Google school, and so everything we do is Google. So it's pretty awesome because all of our stuff links, either if we're at school or if we're not. So do we have any other questions? Comments? Thoughts?
Can you show the code one more time?
Yes, ma'am. There it is. Even if you have your phone and you want to take a picture of your screen, I tell students to do that a lot. That's another good executive function strategy. Did you get it, Heidi?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Great. You're welcome. Anybody else before we go?
It says I can't join.
Uh-oh. I'll go in and as soon as I get off of here, I'll go in and see if there's what's going on with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.